Welcome to Sound City and good morning. Today we want to really look at this kind of an issue. Today, now I hate to say, frankly, that today is an issue, but it's the truth. We're going through things today that have been going on with us, if you will, before today, before yesterday, before the day before, for probably hundreds of years very easily. And we can probably expect these things or issues or this issue to go on in the future. The ironic thing is that we are discussing it, and Sound City is not the first to discuss it. In fact, it's how or and why it's at discussion this segment. Now, about today, I'm not saying something's wrong literally today. Today's Saturday. But the way I say it takes us in to all of the different possibilities that can happen in one day. I just want to clarify, when I say issue is today, that's not literally June 13th, 2020 today. That's today generally, if you will, for those that are really good listeners. And I'm not going to really talk about today because today's a good day. And for me, every day is good. Every day is good. I'm not trying to be a party pooper, and I'm not trying to spoil any fun. But I am trying to explain something, and that's better than talking or speaking and not explaining anything. Somebody said that's kind of hard to do. If you really say, something, then it has a meaning. But as true as I agree that is, I too am a very strong believer in letting the latter or the underdog emerge and see a balanced picture or a pan. I don't think I want to just be successful rather than literally go through some of the tests and challenges that overcoming makes success possible. I think success is one thing, and being successful is a different thing. And some just put it into one group or put them together: success and happiness. I think success is half of happiness because you work with others to be successful. In this world, success does not come for a person alone. There is a story, if you will, that goes with being happy, being sad, being successful, failing, being rich, being poor, being first, being last. It's the way life is. The story is life. And I think with success, that's something that can easily be achieved, but it's still a responsibility. It is still a mission. It is still an objective, if you will, and it is still a part of being successful, that is managing your time, managing your stress, regulating your emotions, recognizing your emotions, your things that you feel, how those things look, being able to identify the change, the transition that takes place when moving from one point to another, if you will. So, as much as we seem to be, here on screen and ready to discuss something, frankly, we're here on screen ready to discuss anything. But since we shoot this out, and we actually take a feed segment, we're going to discuss what we think is a good subject. And if you want to have the subject exclusively fit you, or you want to hear about something that relates to you or that's relevant, that you can make relevant, or that it's pertinent to your personal position and maybe even a situation, send me a text to 850-491-9279, and I will film the discussion subject and post it. Now, that's my intro thing. All of that's my intro thing. Now, here we are. Take care of yourself. I cannot explain, I cannot convey, I cannot channel, I cannot gather that whole thing circled enough. Take care of yourself. I'm really almost speechless. I'm really almost speechless because I have had this conversation numerous times, and fairly, I've not, checked up on each person I've had this conversation with literally every day. So there are some changes that have probably come about that I'm not aware of. And that's good. That is real change. I'm not supposed to really be over that. I'm not supposed to be able. I'm not supposed to be able to keep up with that and go through change myself. Because change is interesting. It takes our time up. It consumes our time with happiness, with satisfaction, with celebration, with our position, with our perspective, with aspects we are good with. Other changes, our goal setting, how we schedule things from one day to the other, as well as how we schedule things once a year or once a month, twice a week, once every 2 weeks. And so we're here because I really want to tell you, take care of yourself. And I have an interesting way that's possible. It's not telling you, though, how to take care of yourself. It's kind of indicating where taking care of yourself becomes most important. And believe it or not, it's going to surprise some people, and some people are going to fall right in with this. But good luck to those that aren't going to directly or immediately um, get this or capture this. Food is very strong. Now, I had breakfast after I, you know, woke up, and after breakfast, I went and brushed my teeth again, flossed, and everything. And so now I'm sitting here with a clean mouth. Okay. Now, trust me, I feel good about that. And that's got something to do with how powerfully I am going to deliver this segment, because I thought it through before it was actually time to get on the line, and it's going so far that it's not really on my mind right now. We're on, and so are you, and I just feel very fresh. I think half of our journey we have under our belt. That's about 50% of why this segment's possible this time. Reaching out and saying thanks to those that contribute to world success, to positive health, social health, physical health, and nutritionally, endure what we go through from one day to the next. Back to food, if we got off subject. It's important to know that when you're taking care of yourself, you're really focusing on every aspect of your body. You're thinking about yourself from head to toe. And when you're going around and around yourself, you're thinking about yourself in 360 degrees. You're also thinking about yourself in 720 degrees, because as a human that's 360 degrees, you are a human that's 360 degrees. And that makes a total of 720 degrees from which you must perspect yourself prospectively. Now, so you don't have to worry about trying to live or govern yourself in 360 degree concept. But you do have to keep in mind that, because it is a part of how we act, why we act, where we are when we act, when, while we're there, we begin to act, as opposed to flow naturally, and how there at that time, and frankly, for the reason that we're acting, we act. So here, explaining somewhat storytelling in the making, included is your food. Yes, believe it or not, included is your food. Maybe you're not eating at the time. Maybe you ate earlier. Maybe you've not had breakfast yet. Maybe you've not had lunch yet. Maybe you missed dinner. You missed supper. You still have yet to eat. That's irrelevant in this case. And honestly, you're still safe if you've not eaten anything yet, because of what is in today's discussion. It's not about food. I want to go right here into a pocket guide to college success and see if there's something that kind of talks about this in a way, to give a little bit more stability to viewers and listeners here, because this thing, if you will, is, in my opinion, somewhat my theory. And it's my theory because as of yet, no one's disputed this to my face. No one's caused me to believe that there is a different way from which I can think about this. And no one has exclusively inspired me to think about this in this particular context. Now, there's a reason for everything, and of course, I've done some observation and before I decided this subject, but those things were something different than what I chose to start out with, and as well from what I chose to finally decide was a really interesting and helpful PowerPoint, if you will. And thank you, Windows. And you know that that's coming from Sound City, that's coming from Soldier Shoes, and that is from the heart or the gut, because being able is just as good as being capable, as long as you're not raising Cain. That's a saying of mine, that is raising Cain to stay able. But it's ironic. I don't personally believe in raising Cain in order to stay able. If you know a little bit about the historic story about morality, in the lesson that life has, the brothers Cain and Abel. So I use that in type of a poetry that's called Raising Cain, because Cain was the brother that had, some complex, and Abel was the more passive brother of the two. They as brothers were not alike, if you will. And typically we expect, biologic siblings to be hereditarily alike, but with really prominent features from their biology. But there are, a lot of those situations where the siblings are totally different. Even twins look different. So in this book, I'm going to see in chapter 6, Critical Thinking, on page 93, what it's going to talk about. And you know what? Here we are. Instead of going there, we're going to go to page 219, chapter 14 it is. And it's going to talk about staying healthy and reducing stress. We're going to talk about staying healthy and reducing stress. So this is going to work. Listen up, please. Staying healthy and finding ways to reduce stress are important strategies to improve your college experience. Keeping both your mind and your body in good shape will make it easier to manage your college schedule, concentrate in class, study effectively, and perform well on exams. As a college student with many responsibilities and commitments, it can be difficult to find time to exercise, eat well, or get enough sleep. Your many obligations may leave you feeling overwhelmed and stressed. Though it may not seem that way, taking the time to stay healthy will help you be successful throughout college and life. College isn't all work, though, and socializing will be an integral part of your college experience. So it's also important to make sound decisions when engaging in college social life in order to stay healthy and happy during your time in college. The suggestions in this chapter will help you figure out how to balance college life with taking good care of yourself and staying safe. That's enough for right now. And if I have to go back into this book, I will. But mostly the idea I wanted to get was something that's talking about food, something that includes food in our life or lifestyle, because that's really where I'm directing my point. Here on this segment about food, I want you to know to take your time when you eat and eat your food. I'm not talking about make sure your food is going in your system. I'm not talking about make sure you swallow your food. I'm not talking about fill your stomach up. I'm not talking about put the food where it goes, if you will. I'm not talking about have a meal. And so I'm not really talking about get something to eat. I'm talking about when you have a meal and you sit down to have it. When you have a meal, sitting down, don't worry about things you put aside before you got ready to eat. Don't worry about things that you have to do after you eat. Don't even, this is probably going to shock some people, don't listen when you eat to get new things to do or to hear new things going on. Don't even use your sense of hearing. Don't even use your sense of smell. Don't even use your sense of taste. Don't even use your sense of touch. And don't even use your sense of sight. When you eat, accept that you've been brought up to eat and it's a part of human survival. Accept that. When you eat, don't force what you're doing from either of those 5 areas we just named. And the reason why is because I have a theory that eating is equivalent to weightlifting and potentially is bodybuilding. Now, I'm not talking about just because a person's eating, they're gaining weight, they're intaking calories. That's not directly what I'm talking about. But I'm still in favor that those things are blessings to us. Now, in that aspect is where I want to go. The blessing of eating as much as is for us the blessing of food. I want to lead you in right around the corner from where you are, from where we are with each other, which is just right around the corner. The food and eating. I want you to learn how to treat each of those things separately, because it's true. Food, you can go to the store, you can get food. And eating, you can't go to the store and get eating. You can't call on the phone and order eating and have it delivered. Nor can you order it and go have it ready to pick up. But eating is the equivalent of physical exercise, weightlifting, I named, um, and as well bodybuilding. To give a little bit of imagery, if you will, in this passage, if you will, that is about eating, and it's going at first to be probably complex for those that have not looked at each of those subjects separately before. Now, I have for a long time, because I've been interested in physical fitness since I was a young teenager. Out of those from 13 to 19 years, I did about 4 of those physically exercising, give or take a few. And I was inspired by a relative that's 4 years older than I am, and an athlete coming up into my junior high school year, that was introducing me to high school, is when I started proactively taking a part as often as imaginably possible to physically exercise, which particularly was weightlifting. Now, it at first was to build my image, to make my body look better. After that, it of course is agreed upon to be attractive and other things like that. But I had a legitimate introduction or orientation into weightlifting, physical fitness, as well as an innocent introduction. So I over the years have developed a positive mind for physical fitness, and a safe recommendation when it comes to success. So, what I'm theoretically implying right now is you're okay, but you could stand to be better if you take your time and eat. Not take your time when you're eating. Take your time to eat. I've been guilty of not doing this before. I've generally, because of wanting to build muscle mass, taken food and gobbled it down. I've taken food and went, straight through it. And I felt good because I had eaten. But as I got wiser, and as I accumulated the time that I spend physically exercising, I changed. I developed. I think now, instead of just consuming food, it's not only important for me to know that I'm only doing half of the job, but it's important for everyone else to know that's just in taking food or consuming food and not taking time to eat, that eating is equivalent to all those other things that take place when we as human beings need food, or while we need food. Now, let's get a little bit deeper, shall we? Here's lunchtime. This is an example. And a tossed salad with turkey breast cut up, onion, tomato, cheese, egg, bell pepper or green pepper, and croutons with a medium or 20-ounce Mountain Dew is for lunch. The salad, let's do ranch dressing. Now, one thing is the salad's tasty. Salads are good. But also, the salad is very nutritious. Okay? We're not talking about, the example's over. We're not talking about here's a salad and a drink for lunch and let's have it. In this segment, from my theoretic point of view, what we're talking about is here's a salad and a 20-ounce Mountain Dew. Bam! Woof. Woof. Which is the truth. Which is the truth, and it's what we need as human beings to start paying attention to. And to pay attention to directly, explicitly, be aware of what we have on our plate before us before we eat, so that we can get comfortable for eating. That means if the television is on and food served, because we're not just talking about lunch, we're talking about any time you decide it's a good time for you to eat. If the television is on at that time and the food is served, the food's prepared, it's ready to eat, turn the television off. Don't just turn away from it. Don't just ignore it. Turn it off. Because that sound, as well as that visual, it's still powerful enough to distract you or anyone else. Turn it off. The radio, turn it off. Headphones, earbuds, out, off. Shut yourself away, if you will, and isolate yourself literally so that you can prepare and eat. Why? Because when you're eating, you're using your jaw, you're using your muscles. Your jaw muscles are working when you're chewing. That's when you're eating. Swallowing your food, or once your food's swallowed, you're not eating at that point, but you're processing what you've eaten. Why? Because your muscles, your body works from head to toe muscularly, and in every other aspect. You're still with your body, just like with your, you can feel in your esophagus, or with the esophagus, the way your larynx works, when it's working, when it's not, and your trachea. Your body is still mashing your food up, making it fit when it's being swallowed, when it's going down the esophagus. And so you really are still eating, but you don't have to focus on that because that's too far out of our human control. That in our 360 degrees reality is more a 720 degree area. Something we know it's good to pay attention to, but we cannot control. And so if you want to pay attention to it, you can, but you don't have to. Literally, you don't have to. So like I am saying, when you swallow, it's a done deal. There's no way to bring that exactly how it's going down back up. Okay? Now, turn everything off. Have your food. Your jaw is going to work. Your abdomen is going to work. Your back is going to work. Your lower back and your upper back. Your thighs are going to work. Your feet are going to work. Your legs are going to work. Your biceps are going to work. Your sternum is going to work. Your neck is going to work. And your brain is going to work. Now, what's happening when you're eating and your jaw muscle is moving and every other muscle is moving is you're becoming instantly stronger while you're eating, because that's how we naturally take to our nutrition obligations per day. Believing this and adapting to this is going to prepare you for what happens once you're finished eating. Because your body and your brain knows every single inch of your way in real time. It's what you want to prepare for. Eating is just kind of the lighter area of this subject in this segment. Physical fitness, that's what our main topic is. And your muscular system is the assertive part in this, because it makes up our total body system along with other functions of our composition. or aspects. When you turn the television off and you turn the radio off and you isolate and you put aside everything that's going on, and you as well get away from any noise, any distraction, you're putting yourself in a position where at your meal on the plate, you can hear exactly what's going on over that food where you're concerned directly. You can see as well what exactly is going on constructively. You can see your cultural composition interactively, if you will, while what's going on is going on. You can hear what's going on when you're eating, while you're eating. You can taste what you're eating when you've isolated and you're at this point. You can touch your food and make sense and actually understand how to process your eating practice or pattern or routine or cycle when you're isolated and you're focusing on eating. You can also smell what you're eating. You can smell the food. You can smell, each item, each condiment, and make sense where some may not think it's important of what you eat. But now, that's not right or wrong if someone thinks that's not important and someone else thinks it's important. But what is important, which is the point here, is if you have an opportunity to advance, to move forward, and become more at chance to be successful or succeed, which is a broad range for each of us, you should take advantage of that situation. And this, as I mentioned, is equivalent to weightlifting, bodybuilding theoretically. It involves competition. Everyone's not going to feel it's necessary to concentrate on eating as much as concentration is put on food. But nevertheless, eating is a cultural thing. Lots of people put food in that place when talking about different things that are cultural. Lots of people say name food rather. But I've not heard yet, which is why I've come up with this theory. I've not heard yet someone name or mention eating as a part of culture. And not eating the correct way is why several relationships have broken up or have not succeeded. It's why a yes for an answer has, gone on somewhere else and an answer was no. It's vice versa as well. Why some answers have supposed to have been yes and ended up or turned out to be no. It's of course why overweight individuals have the self-esteem level that they have, if you will, which is very common and normal. So I'm not trying to point anyone out or have anyone point me out. But let's sit here and let's be real and let's face the facts and take the time we have here and really do something powerful. And that's just realize that, when you become overweight, when we're overweight, we fake happiness when we're interacting with someone else. When we're alone, individually, we're just as happy as human life allows us to be. Okay? Let's get that clear. Everyone's happy with themselves. But now when you step around and you get around, if you will, there are some perspectives that we all could stand to touch upon, and we are sharing a portion of that right now, so we can feel pretty good for today, and here on, frankly. Now, with that food, where you can actually see it, you can actually feel it, you can actually smell it, you can actually touch it, you can actually hear it. You're prepared now for what you're going to go through when you start eating. And you want to be. That's what this point is. You want to be prepared for what you're going to go through when you start eating. Okay? We're not trying to prepare you to eat. It's not an etiquette class even. Okay? This is about performance. Period. And it's coincidental that eating is a just subject while talking about performance. Theoretically. And that's okay if I'm going to stand alone on this. Okay? Because when I exercise, I do that alone. And so the equation is going to stay the same. We're just going to try at the normal to isolate the variable, not find out what the variable is, because it wouldn't be a variable if we could, but to find out what the variable is equal to and cancel out the coefficient, if you will. Now, listen to this. When you're eating and you're making your body consume, putting that food into a form that the body can ingest, it's working you out. Okay? You don't have to have dumbbells in your hands curling. You don't have to have the lateral pull down bar, in your hands pulling down. You don't have to be on the leg curls machine, strengthening your hamstrings. What you have to do, important enough, is know and recognize, though, that you are still in the process of building your physical shape by using your muscles, the food in your mouth, fine, your jawbone, your jaw muscles rather, moving, contracting back and forth, in and out, up and down, is the important aspect from which to look at in this kind of an equation, if you will. What you're doing next is inhale and exhale while you're eating. Inhale. This is breathing through your nose. Inhale. Don't hold your breath when you're eating. That's a habit. I understand. And it's how we all are raised that causes us to develop that kind of a habit. But as we get older and wiser, it's good to take some time to realize we don't have to be in a rush all the time when we're old enough to live on our own, and we have our own eating schedules, and we're not eating when our parents think it's time to eat or we need to eat. We're not obligated, if you will, to meet the feeding times that our parents have established over the period of years they've been alive in the world and raised to eat and what have you. When we're old enough to take on our own eating or dietary practice or repetition and frankly redundancy, at that time we need to establish a responsible way to go about partaking in this globally exclusive art of human form. Food is not our neighbor. It's not who lives next door. The food we've known, and I'm not saying food, I'm saying the food. The food is not something new. The miraculous genealogical aspect of humanity only knows where food comes in to the picture of what humans do from one day, which is 24 hours, to the next, which is a 48-hour time period, and another 24 hours processibly. Now, taking that food on in this way, it allows you to eat. And it's true. It is important as well. If you're sitting with a tossed salad and a Mountain Dew at 12 o'clock p.m. and when 12:10 comes around, you're finished eating. There is no salad besides the remnants left in the bowl, if you will, or on the plate. And there's no Mountain Dew. You've done something wrong. In the theory that I have, it's probably got something to do with the size salad you ordered, if you really had enough time for that size salad, and probably should have gotten a smaller salad so that proportionately you could ingest the salad correctly and not have had just the salad gobbled down and your nutritious pattern or path in region overlooked or mistaken. And is probably, as well your fault. Now, I think that if you take your own respiration inhaling and exhaling, and you do it in that way, you can't go wrong with processing how your muscles are working, what your muscles need to repair themselves or heal, and how strong you're becoming, and how you're growing, and at what rate you're growing while you're in fact doing what it takes to grow. There are only two things that can cause growth physically. That's exercise physically and eating. Like I said, don't hold your breath and inhale and exhale. As well, when you are eating, relax your muscles that are stronger than others. The stronger areas that you lean on or rely on when you're composing your posture, relax those things, those muscles. Don't defend yourself eating. Don't try to justify yourself eating. Other experts or specialists or technicians can elaborate on that very fast in this country. My point is more about eating specifically at all times, instead of where those points end up going, which is a broad array, if you will, of others. And so, staying here on the subject, which is not a lightweight or a flyweight. When you are also here with the posture and relaxed, don't think about yourself and what what you have to do and what you've accomplished at that, that far or up to that point. I want you to gain strength to let yourself sleep while you're eating. Let your brain work. Let it work. Because when you're eating and you're having a meal with someone else, and it's a fancy kind of a situation where this person's interviewing you for a job, and you're going to have a baked potato at this interview and a sweet tea while you go over, if you will, the job criteria. You're going to influence your company about whether or not you're ready, even if you're qualified, whether or not you're eligible for this position based on how you're eating. It's going to have nothing to do with what you've ordered to eat, what food is sitting before you. It's going to have nothing to do with your manners or your etiquette and what your reason for eating your food the way you are eating it is to you. It's going to have something to do with whether or not you're realistically eating your food and being a person that's accepted what's going on around you. You're either going to get the position or you're not. But no matter which way that decision lands, you're going to inspire that other person to still have confidence in you, and a just confidence. Because when you're eating, you're developing your real sense of awareness, and you're reflecting your real sense of awareness and your real level of maturity, most of all. Just putting food in your mouth and using a napkin to keep your mouth clean, keep your hands clean, that's not enough. That even has nothing to do with whether or not you're eating your food. That's all about you consuming your food. Now, consuming it and eating it is different, because that's how the brain processes. Once again, we're just talking about eating. We're not talking about nutrition. But we are talking about a little bit of health. Not particularly so, if you will, but it's important to actually show how this works hand in hand. And this, therefore is not, an attempt to coerce anyone or try to lead anyone into a fantasy. This is a real subject, and in this segment, it's my honest belief and faith that it's not been discussed before. So, I want to keep coming back and forth on this subject to make sure we're keeping clear understanding about what's going on, what in this discussion is taking place. Now, when you're eating at this function, because this person has the same five senses you have and the same brain, you're being watched for more than why you're there, if you will, why you're an applicant. That's been selected as a semifinalist for the exclusive honor of accepting the position, variably speaking. It would help if you've been practicing eating before that comes. But there's a first time for everything. And at this function, this meeting, you're not going wrong if it's your first time. You're going on the note that you could also, possibly choke. Food could go down the wrong pipe. when you're taking your time to eat instead of gobble your food down here. Now, you're also going in the direction that's bonding with this person in a cultural way when you're eating. You're not directly going to say, nor is your eating directly implying, I think you're a nice person. Or, do you think I'm a nice person? Or, this food is good. This is a good choice. I order this 2 or 3 more times back to back. Or, would you like some? Would you like to try this? But what you are doing is saying, or what's being reflected is, and that's what's important to every human being. Your breath, your breathing, your livelihood, what case you're really under, what situation you're really in, and what really is happening. Because see, when we get into really eating and we get into food and things like that, it's easier for us with, the way traditionally families work. We can just easily ignore someone else's, eating, having some bite, something to eat, and ourselves, as well, having something to eat, just, okay, having something to eat, hungry, starving, you name it. And we can miss out on a lot of what we are to each other when we are building with each other, and when these things amongst us are constructive things. What is expected of us and what our expectations are of one another very fast. Now, that being the case, is my theory that if we get to eat, here the food is before us, and we turn the television off, or we turn the radio off, we turn the phone off, we don't conversate, we don't discuss, and we really don't interact. We can function when we're multitasking. Eating food is multitasking. It takes focus on the proportion that's going in the mouth to not, fill our mouth with food. It takes focus on, consuming the meal in a reasonable amount of time so that we're not wasting our food and wasting our nutritious time factor when it's time to eat. And it takes skill if we have a particular kind of dish, like it's a protein diet that we're having, or a carbohydrates diet, or a sodium diet, or a salt diet, or salt-free diet. It takes focus with this food thing. This thing gets deep. It gets deep, as we said earlier it would, and we wouldn't mind. Now, when we over time process that we've gone through several meals and we have not really focused on those meals individually, we can grow just as unhappy as if we had taken the meal and just gobbled the meal down even if we turn everything, all devices off, and we sit quietly and eat, we can still, over time, look and see that we've destroyed a lot of finesse that we potentially had. And so, to not really be wasteful on the cheap things, ironically speaking, we need to focus on when we're eating, taking that as if we were bodybuilding or weightlifting. And as we progress through the meal, as we consume it, that is, and not just to sit as, a mass builder and thank the Lord and eat, but as we sit and as we consume each bite, self-conscientiously accept the subconscious in our head or mind, rather, and go through the cost to survive. There's a lot more poundage we can pack on that's positive lean mass, if you will, and as well positive and high self-esteem and self-respect. We can if we realize that recognizing our subconscious identity, we can develop. Not many think we can develop in areas, plural. Most think we develop, and it's in a singular form that is about something that expands into a spectrum of things, but we can develop in a plural way at that table or at that meal. And that's a part of the blessing in life. That's something that we get. It's ironic because of that, but still we have the ability to abundantly explore, period, and discover. Now, there's not just going to have to be one step at a time in this lifetime for everything. Some things we can do and appear to be supernatural. Mind, a growth mindset. It's a good way. And there are things about a fixed mindset too that are equivalent and the same. Now, with the eating, inhale while eating, inhale, exhale, not eat and then take a moment to inhale, exhale, catch your breath, like not look or appear to be struggling with your food or not happy ingesting your meal. The point is to do this. The point is to exist while you're eating, because in my theory, under repetitious observation, people generally do not do that. People do not concentrate on eating as people concentrate on food and ingesting food. There's a thing here about eating we're talking about that gives the respect to someone else, that is the kind of respect that comes without a cost. It comes for free. It's a custom. You might want to think. It's not something that we're very good about right now, but we can start. Now, and I'm just pacing because I'm wanting what I'm saying to reach the mind of you. This is because this is a new thing. And it's an important thing. It becomes more important as you do it, believe it or not. It's just like beginning to ride a bike. You first learn, but you don't necessarily learn as soon as you first try. With practice, it gets better, and the better it gets, the more you're willing to ignore how much of a challenge it is and focus more on how happy it makes you. When you're in that kind of area, by the way, that's where your eating could stand to be, in top condition. Your muscle construction, when you're preparing, we're talking about your nervous system. This is what is affected when where we are discussing this, you're not eating your food. It tells a person that your nerves are bad. And that person may be just as guilty for just gobbling food down as you are. But that person still cannot help what's to be seen with the naked eye. So, when eating, put your food in your mouth, all of that. But don't forget, when you're chewing, how sometimes you don't want to finish eating because you're tired of chewing. You've got, 4 hamburgers, 4 orders of fries, and 4 drinks. And you're going to take half of that home. Don't blame it on how much you ordered. Don't blame it on the proportion of the meal. What's happened is you've gotten tired. You've fatigued. Your muscles have fatigued from the repetition of chewing. You can grow, I'm not saying you can eat more or learn to eat more, but focusing on when you're eating, while you're eating, in the time that you are spending, then you can get the benefits and gain of what you have potential. In case you at some point just decide your eating for the time being has come to its end. Until next time. Instead of having eaten 2 burgers, 2 fries, and drank 2 beverages, and feel just really bogged down, or over energetic, really fast. I want you to understand, if you focus on your muscles in your jaw moving when you're eating, And you actually can't do that unless you've isolated during your eating time where there are no distractions. You can prepare yourself and make yourself aware automatically that when you're eating, when you're about to eat, you can make physical changes about yourself that can be seen, that reflect every day, all day long, just as well as we breathe. Just as well as you breathe, so can your physical image to others. No one always can see a person that's breathing when the body's moving. But if you're standing and you're in a logical position, a person's going to assume you're alive from a distance. Sure. Up close, of course. This is possible, this eating thing, because of those kinds of things. A person will assume in the equation, sure, you're healthy, you're alive, and in that equation, I just think, or a journal, that you come forth with what the news of the day is for that person, which I think is really, really, really awesome. It's very powerful if you have been eating. It's very powerful when you've been eating. If you haven't been, okay. But just know people pass by in this life every day. We come and we go. We don't get to sit in real life and just tune in to Sound City or any other subject. It's a blessing. And I said that to say this. If you give yourself, in the time that you're going to eat, the time for eating that is to eat, you can have your green beans, whether they are nutritious or not, because just putting them in your body, in my theory, is equivalently important as what the nutrition need is for having green beans or string beans. You can have the meatloaf just because you're putting the meatloaf in your body. You can have the cornbread just because the cornbread is being ingested by you. What the nutrients are in it in this aspect is not important. Why does it cancel? Because you're eating it. And that's a done story. You put it where it goes and can't come back the way it was before it went. That's a done deal. That means where we are is in the middle of having eaten responsibly and having eaten irresponsibly. And right in the middle area there is I ate and I got paid for it. It paid off. We're not making excuses I was hungry, so blah blah blah. It was my favorite dish. I had, two or three of them. It tastes so good. Blah 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 blah. I was raised on this. We ate this all the time when I was growing up. Blah 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 blah. I'm a bodybuilder. Blah 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 blah. Where we are at is you ate food. We all can figure you're one of those things. You know all of those things that you are. When you take the time out to survive, you're doing something besides realizing those things. You are surviving as much as you're trying to survive. In a fair equation, if you've taken the steps to do anything, you also logically are in the knowledge of whatever it is, question and answer. If you construct a bookshelf, you too are in the knowledge logically of the bookshelf and why the bookshelf is needed or important, and why not the bookshelf is important or needed. If you don't take the steps, then you still to learn about that subject, if you will. Having said that, when you're eating, you're acknowledging your need, not just to survive logically, but to do anything that you do. At that point, therefore, you need to be aware. You need to be subconsciously aware. You need to be proactive. And you need to be interactive. It's not smart to eat and watch television while you're eating. It's not smart to eat and listen to the radio while you're eating. It's not smart to eat and write an essay while you're eating. It's not smart to have food in one place and clothes you want to iron on an ironing board in another place, and to go back and forth, eat a bite, go back to ironing until you've chewed it up and swallowed it, put the iron up, go back, eat another bite, like kids like to try and do. Eat and run, eat and play. That's not smart, adults. That's not smart. And this discussion is this deep because I want to distinguish that it doesn't have to be a lot of distance between you and the food. You don't really have to make steps away from the food to and from. Away from the food to the food, away from the food to the food, to get a person like me to notice this pattern. You can have the food right down in your hand, and I can still indicate whether or not you are really paying attention to yourself while you're eating, or if you're eating irresponsibly. So you can't just have your food and fool me. You still got to do more. You've got to go deeper. You have got to have your food and as well have your spiritual or your religious mind at the front line that says you're important, and you're important enough for survival, for the day, for the moment, for the instance, and for the record. frankly. Which means you have to have with your food a self-respect and a respect for others that may not take their time and eat, that may be overweight as a result of not taking time to eat. Ironically, that may sound like a person is overweight and has eaten too much, has really been paying attention to food, has really been having food. But a person that's overweight, according to my theory, has not been paying attention to food. Has not. And so we want you to eat. We're not saying take a minute or take a break, take time away from what you're doing right now. Go to the kitchen, fix yourself something to eat. Go do what you have to do to fix yourself, importantly, something to eat. What we are saying is, just as we could say, like you said a moment ago, or just said, if you don't go in the kitchen to fix yourself something to eat, and you go somewhere else, or so you have a different means by which you're going to eat. Don't just let it end there. Don't consider that you've done your due justice to yourself at that point. If you went somewhere else, particularly, and you've had it given to you in a bag, your food, cooked or uncooked, you still have to fix it. It doesn't matter if it's raw, or if it's frozen, or if it's cooked. You still, in etiquette, have to fix it presentable to ingest. You can't just take a bottle of water and drink it. You have to take a bottle of water, open it, and drink the contents from the bottle of water. That's what you have to do. That's not how we have to process it. But ironically, that's what you have to do, since that's not what we have to process. What the point of this is for you to do a natural common thing instead of not do a natural common thing. That's to not accept repetition as your answer. That's to not accept redundancy as your answer. That's to accept repetition in flow as repetition. Accept redundancy as redundancy. Let redundant things be pattern to you. Let repetition be in things pattern to you, natural, normal. Don't be so ironic or sarcastic that you don't take care of yourself. I can't say this enough. Don't look at yourself. I wish I could get around to you, verbatim. Don't look at yourself. You as a person are fine. You always have been. You always will be. Things happen in life. Those things, I believe, with others, frankly, that each of us have control over. And being overweight, stop paying attention to your food and you wouldn't be overweight. Instead, pay attention when you're eating, and your body will adapt to its composition, its own program, and you'll flow from one day to the next day along with the things that you've scheduled for flow. You won't be a ragged kind of performer or someone that just meets the quota. You'll be a performer. You will be, instead of a challenger, a contender, which is what I like the most out of those two. Personally, I think if you don't have all these other distractions going on and you purposefully set those things out of your way, and you sit down at your meal time, whenever that is, and give yourself the self-respect of surviving, of taking a part in something you do not have an option out of, you will develop your mind's strength in processing acceptance or proactive interaction. And that's particularly with socializing or social life, on your job or at any kind of work, in adulthood instead of childhood, or in childhood instead of adulthood, because we always are our parents' child or offspring, no matter how old we get or they get. When you have study times, things to study based on the specific subject, your development is higher, is more powerful, particularly working to succeed, not just meet the quota, but to be a contender instead of a challenger. And I think that's possible because when you are eating, you're using your muscles. If that wasn't the case, I'd probably have a different theory right now on a different subject. But since it's come to me, and like I said, I've been guilty of just eating my food as well as I could just get my food down before I got wiser. If you are able to eat your food and endure the pain that it takes to eat, or the pressure that the jaw muscles sustain when you eat, you can accept, not at the beginning, because you have to try things and do it over and over and over until it becomes automatic. You can get to the point eventually where you're used to not what you're eating. When you work on this, if it's when the next time you have chicken, it's the next time when you have beef, it's the next time when you have lettuce, it's the next time when you have potatoes, you name it, eat what you want. But when those times come, you're aware of, you are in the process of using muscles your muscles. You're not just eating because religiously your body needs that spiritual feed to survive. You're actually going to work. You are about to work. You're going to use your muscles. You can prepare yourself and become used to that muscle use that you're not very aware of, as well as you are of your more prominent or popular muscles that you use, like your thighs, your legs, your foot, your back, from day to day, that have not yet been brought forward to my knowledge, in the regard that you are a human that survives life. You survive. We all survive. The inevitable life, birth to demise, is life. In life, with life, we all survive. As well as that is the equation present for us all. Now, remember, you're using muscles, and focusing on using that muscle or those muscles, you can cause those muscles to grow. Your face isn't going to swell. I'm not talking about that kind of growth. But in the same regard, those muscles are going to grow. And when you eat at the next meal, after your growth has reached its mature level, you'll become not a better eater. You'll become not a better guest. You'll become, in your natural sense, and your reflective qualities will show in that time between beginning and in intermediate level, to whoever's around, and cause you to appear better than you were before. You will have grown used to concentrating on your jaw muscles. And when the times come when you are to prepare to use your jaw muscles, your nervous system will be relaxed more, and you'll not be such a burden or a load on someone else that's sitting in front of you about to eat. In this day and time when we are, as a world, not very self-conscientious when it comes down to food and eating, as we should be, while we're experiencing men and women that try to have a significant relationship with each other, and just aren't able to get all elements to meet. Families that are breaking up, important decisions go the wrong way, and the physical body take a very crucial hit. That particularly is downhill. Eat meat nowadays, when it's time to eat. If I'm online, if I'm in a conversation, just outside of restaurant, uh, or over the phone, or on Zoom. Uh, if I'm in the middle of studying, if I'm in the middle of reading, when I'm officially about to eat, prepare the food, prepare a meal, I put those things aside. Whatever it is, I put that thing aside. And when I get ready to eat, I do not tend to that other thing or those things while I'm eating. And furthermore, regarding use of hands and doing other things, in mind I don't do other things. I don't sit to eat with the television on. I don't sit to eat in front of the window to look out at the environment or notice or observe the weather or the climate. I don't listen to the radio. I don't read something set forward from me or right in front of me while I eat. And I don't listen to conversation when I eat. I eat at my food. I inhale, I exhale. I don't feel or make myself feel convicted because I'm at my humanic point of survival. I'm not in my athletic skill. I'm not in my popular moment. I'm not in my exclusive presentational moment. I'm not in my gifted area. I don't convict myself, and I don't make myself feel guilty because I feel positive about the food I'm about to consume personally. And while I inhale and exhale, I eat. When I'm chewing, I'm focusing on nothing else, not even it. The chewing that I'm doing, I'm eating. Eating. Present tense. There's eat, it's present tense. There's ate, past tense. There's eating, that's future tense. I'm eating. And instead of enjoying it, when I'm done, I'm enjoying what it produced for me as soon as each bite touches my mouth. The nutrients are fast. This is important to know. Nutrients are fast. Food is not ignorant. You cannot afford to ignore your eating habit. In my theory, you cannot afford to disregard specifically how you eat and expect powerful changes in your own attitude, a more structured reflection. Each portion that touches my mouth goes on in, and from that I enjoy what my result is. When I'm finished eating, I feel self-conscientiously responsible, and it's clearly not the same as just sitting down at 12 o'clock lunchtime with a salad and a Mountain Dew and being finished by 10 minutes after 12. It's not the same. Taking the time, maybe if it's coincidentally going to take 10 minutes, that's fine. But specifically, though, take the time that it takes to eat, no matter how much time that is, so that you contribute to your body responsibly what it is that naturally your body has to have. When I'm finished eating, I can think about what I left off to eat better than what I could think before I fatigued, or at the point I experienced fatigue, thus I needed to refuel my body. Significantly, I can get back onto what I was doing, probably from a different angle, and control my self-conscientiousness and my subconsciousness better than before. Because I don't have the natural guilt for abusing my body to work alongside my future plan, or my plan to have another meal in the future, which would, if I've not done the right thing at the current meal or the present meal, is just going to be another disaster in my mind, instead of a good or positive feeling or assumption that the body and the brain particularly is processing for me, just as sure as I have to have food to survive as a person, a human, not a person. Excuse me. But I don't know how else I can say it, because I'm keeping in mind everyone that wants to watch Sound City before they get something to eat, and I don't want to hinder that by any means. Also, I'm about to the point where with this discussion, I'm feeling responsible or obligated to partake in a responsible eating of my own, and I'm going to share one other thing with you, and that is, when I get up the meal to eat, I'm not going to watch television as well. I'm not going to answer the phone as well. I am not going to take a bite and go back and forth from my meal to something else, multitask, and just nibble at my food. I'm not going to listen to music. I'm not going to be in Sound City Studios listening to tracks. I'm not going to interact with or on social media. And I'm not going to make myself guilty, nor am I going to convict myself for being that way or this way. I'm going to inhale, exhale normally instead of hold my breath when I eat, or tighten my stomach when I eat, or be afraid to eat. Be afraid to experience a roller coaster, like putting something into my body that in 360 degrees plus 360 degrees I cannot watch. Even with a mirror, I can only see the food go in my mouth and me take the utensil out of my mouth and chew the food, swallow the food. I can't watch the food go down into my body and throughout my body, while my trachea is still working with the remnants of the proportion, that's making sure all of those little bitty crumbs are going down out of the path of my breathing through my esophagus. I'm going to focus on relaxing so that my breathing's effective and logical, and let me eating take effect in my personal and social lifestyle, so that when intense times come about and it seems that impulse is the best strategy, I can still get around, if you will, whatever the situation may be. I hope you do the same thing and meet up with me, where we're going to conversate, discuss. I actually like the word discuss more than conversate, or discussion more so than conversation. Compare, compel, inspire, or influence. Anything. It's been good sharing this information with you. I'm Soldier Shoes. And once again, if you have a subject that you want me particularly to discuss, I will say you can text me the subject to 850-491-9279, and I will raise the discussion, film it, and post it. Until next time, we talk or speak. I really mean this. Stay healthy.